All episodes of From Days to Years are presented for informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed herein are those of the individuals interviewed and do not necessarily reflect the views of the producers, distributors, or affiliated entities. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information presented, no guarantee is made regarding the completeness, reliability, or sustainability for any particular purpose. The individuals, events, and organizations depicted are portrayed as accurately as possible based on available information. Any inaccuracies or omissions are unintentional. Some scenes may contain graphic content or sensitive subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. The producers, distributors, and affiliated entities disclaim any liability for the use or interpretation of information contained in this documentary. All rights reserved.
Welcome to From Days to Years. I'm your host, Angie Lee, and I'm here with my very special guest, Marisa Rodriguez, with Luxe Baby Custom Newborn Care. Marisa, I'm so excited to see you. How are you today?
Good morning. I am so excited to be here. I feel like we've had this in the works for a while now.
We have. Marisa is going to introduce her company and tell you a little bit more about it, and then we're going to get into the whys and hows of what she does and how she helps moms improve their lives.
I'm Marisa Rodriguez. I'm the owner of Luxe Baby Custom Newborn Care. I am a newborn care specialist, and I specialize in all things newborn related and helping new and expecting parents find healthy sleep habits for their babies and sleep solutions to get them sleeping solid stretches and eventually sleeping through the night.
Oh. Our little one is now 10, so it's been a long time since we did any kind of sleep anything. She sleeps through the night, no problem. But I remember years and years ago, now do you call it sleep training or sleep approach, or do you call it a sleep schedule? What wording do you use, and what's the difference between the three?
Sure. I do gentle sleep conditioning. So, I think the biggest misconception about babies and sleep is that you have to wait until the baby is 5 or 6 months and do traditional sleep training. And everybody kind of relates sleep training with harsh, cry it out methods. While that has been very prominent in years past, the reality is that people don't know that there are other options. And one of them is gentle sleep conditioning, which is something that can be implemented from the very start. And everything is gentle. We're basically following the baby's rhythm and sleep patterns. And we're just making little tiny gentle tweaks. And as the baby grows and weans itself from feeds and is developmentally ready, the baby is sleeping longer stretches and eventually through the night. And there doesn't have to be a big plan. There doesn't need to be crying and frustration and a lot of challenges. It can be very easy, and it can be a smooth process with the right education and support.
Wow. Yep. Because I'm 47. And so I come from the old school where I was told, you had to let her cry it out. And we didn't really try sleep training until she was much, much older. I think she might have been like 8 or 9 months, maybe even a year.
Yeah.
Because she slept next to me. I do not suggest that. I'm not saying people should let their child sleep next to them. Co-sleeping is a good idea when it's done safely. I did not do it the right way. She literally slept next to me. She should have been in something else. But I'm an old school mom and I didn't know that. So I do not suggest that. But we did like a kind of a cried out method, and it was horrible for everybody. And eventually we just kind of gave up with that. And eventually she learned how to go to sleep. I think we ended up using white noise, but I would have loved to have known about gentle conditioning. So then you're on your website, because I was on your social media. It's fabulous, by the way. I love the color red. Use it throughout. Awesome. You talk about, working with the baby. Now, your clients can't talk. So how do they let you know when they should go to sleep, or if it's, how do you figure that out? Because they can't talk.
Right. Well, there's So we have such a deeper understanding now of newborns than before. And you're not alone, Angela. I mean, you were doing a lot of things that everybody else was doing. And honestly, a lot of, even in today, a lot of families do bed share and co-sleep. And at the end of the day, there is zero judgment because we all are just surviving at the end of the day. And we don't know what we don't know. So I agree with you, though. There is, when families ask me what I think about it, I mean, my personal view is that is a personal choice that every parent has the right to make for themselves and their child. And at the end of the day, I just advise them that if you're going to bed share or co-sleep, to get educated on how to do it safely. But when it comes to, yeah, but when it comes to gentle sleep conditioning, in the baby, you know, you're asking, how does the baby communicate? How do I know? That is such an interesting question. You know, I've been doing this, even as a nanny, my niche was always sleep. And there is something very intuitive about the whole thing. And honestly, if you really stop and you practice mindfulness with your baby and really tune in to its cues, its sounds, its cries, its body language, babies are communicating with us. We just have to really be mindful and be aware of what they are trying to tell us. But honestly, it takes me, you know, a couple of nights or days when I kind of get a feel for the baby. The baby lets me know right away its preferences. There are so many things that I'm able to see during that time. And one of the things that I do is I really tune into the baby's sleep rhythms and patterns. I don't wake the baby. You know, like in the beginning, you know, newborns will sleep for long stretches, but some newborns will be up every 5 minutes. And that's because it has particular needs. You know, babies come with their own individual and unique needs. So really being attuned to that and understanding that you can't just read a book and say, oh, your 2-month-old should be doing X, Y, and Z, but your baby, your 2-month-old may not be doing that, and that is okay. It's not cause for alarm unless your baby is having health issues, obviously, or feeding issues. But babies do things when they're ready in their own time. So the gentle sleep conditioning, I've had some babies sleeping 5-hour stretches at 6 weeks. I've had some babies sleeping 3-hour stretches at 6 weeks. It just depends on the baby. So if you're really tuned in and allowing them to lead you, that is when you're going to have the most success for getting your baby to sleep longer stretches and eventually through the night when developmentally appropriate.
It's interesting to say that communication methods, because our daughter's 10 and we were talking to some, they're not therapists, but women who are really in tune with helping to get tweens to talk to their parents, the communication between tweens and parents. And one of the things that they kept saying were different communication methods. They didn't say the phrase communication methods, but at the end of the day, that's what they were saying. Use different ways to communicate and also listen to hear or hear to listen, either way. And really know, don't just make snap judgments. And it's the same thing. As parents or as moms, from the beginning, we need to make sure we're listening to our child, because obviously your clients can't talk, our babies can't talk. But if we stop, maybe shut out some of the noise going on around us and some of the stresses that we have and the things going on in life, we would be able to communicate with our children and understand them a little better, starting out at the newborn phase all the way through. So it's just interesting to have that conversation a couple of weeks ago with moms who have their kids are older, and you who work with newborns, and just see that connection. And that's something I need to work on better, making sure I use different communication methods and I'm actually listening to my daughter. Wow.
Yes, I also had to learn that with my daughter as well, who is now 27 years old. And we're still working on it sometimes.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Yeah, still work. I think it's always going to be a work in progress. But yes, definitely. And, one of the things is I think a lot of people don't realize how you care for your newborn from the very beginning. It matters. Don't wait. You don't have to wait for time to pass by. You can be implementing all these little things gently, and the baby is just it's going to become, babies are a product of their environment. It's just going to become kind of like a bit of a habit, a bit of a routine, without trying to force your baby into an actual routine or schedule. And it just gets as it goes, time goes by, it just gets better and better and better. Which, at the end of the day, you literally, the families that I work with, we're literally having that wonderful bedtime routine consistently, and we're able at the end of the day to do the bedtime routine, get the baby ready for bed, swaddled and or in its sleep sack, depending on where it's at developmentally, and able to practice wake to sleep, lay them in the crib, say goodnight, leave the room, and they self-soothe themselves to sleep peacefully.
That's amazing.
It really, I mean, as many times as I've done it, every single time I'm in awe myself. So it's so special. And people don't understand that that's truly how amazing it can be.
I wish I knew you 10 years ago. Or not.
Well, if I had $1 for every time I heard that.
Especially if old methods don't work. These new methods are great.
It's hard. Well, yeah, it's hard. Again, they just didn't have an understanding of babies. They were treated more as and cared for more as objects versus little individuals. And unfortunately, we still see a lot of that today. But that is why I'm so passionate about educating new parents and advocating for babies that they receive respectful and responsive care. Because the difference, it just makes a world of difference. It really does.
And I love that you're advocating for children and for babies. And I want to get into how the research has changed from, as the generations have gone. But my first question is, or one of my many questions, when should parents call you? When they get pregnant? When the baby comes? After the first week? Or that second day we're not getting any sleep? Like, when should they call and say, okay, do you tell them, okay, in month 1 you should do this, and 2 and 3, and then when should they call? And is there a timeline of when they'll get the actual sleep that they used to get?
Sure. I mean, I generally start with families when they bring their babies home from the hospital, whether it's remote or in person. We are setting up those healthy sleep habits. In many cases, it'd be great to do it before baby arrives so that they can be prepared, they can know what to expect, so that they get home and they're not hitting so many walls in their postpartum period, because exhaustion and sleep deprivation is the number one factor related when families bring their babies home from the hospital or the birth center. It's a lot, and you're in such a heavy fog, and we want to help you lift that fog and be able to enjoy your baby. We don't want you to, the whole first couple of months, to just be a fog and a haze. We want you to be present. We want you to be rested. And we want you to be able to connect with your baby on a level that you and your baby will have for the rest of your life.
Interesting too, that in my mind, I'm thinking, when you find out you're pregnant, you do the announcements, you plan the baby shower. So you get all these superfluous, but I shouldn't say superfluous because I love baby showers, as he had 4.
Yes.
I know that sounds like a lot. She had 4. So I do love it. And they're not necessarily superfluous, but when it comes to the foundational pieces of making sure that you're successful as a parent, sleep should be paramount. And we just kind of don't think about that. I think about the baby showers, and literally she had 4. And it sounds like we need to be making sure those foundational pieces are set up first. So contacting, a sleep consultant, contacting you, a lactation consultant. I also read on your website that you have someone who is a lactation consultant. When did you bring that person on, and when did you realize, hey, there's a key here between making sure the baby is well fed or getting the right nutrients in their bodies and sleep? And also, but that's for the breastfeeding mommies. Then there are mommies that can't breastfeed, and there's no judgment on that because they literally cannot bottle fed babies too. But when did you bring on a lactation consultant and realize that there was a key into sleep? And also, moms out there, baby showers are fabulous. Like I said, Izzy had 4.
Yes.
You really need to bring that piece and ask for it as a part of your baby shower gift. Contact Marisa, and get someone to buy the gift of sleep for you, because that's something I never would have thought about.
Yes, and we do on my website. We have a gifts page on at the footer, and so there are gift cards. And at the end of the day, we specialize in custom care. So if I don't have a lot of packages and a la carte stuff, because we do custom care. So we're going to tailor a package, create something that's unique, that will fit your family's individual needs and the needs of your baby. So I've had people hire me 6 months before the baby came. I've had families reach out a week after their babies were born because they're exhausted and they're hitting the wall. Honestly, I agree with what you said, Angela. I'm really passionate now about letting families know that, as soon as start building your village, whatever that looks like. Start building your community, and get support. Use that baby shower registry to get the gift of sleep, because there is no better gift than sleep when you are a new parent. So that's my number 1 tip. As far as the lactation consultant, early on in my overnights, I was seeing a lot of my moms hit a wall. And while I do have basic lactation, knowledge, I'm not, that isn't my focus. And I have helped many of my moms, nursing moms, but the reality is that I now, in the last, I'd say 5 years, I tell all my families in advance, before the baby comes, get in touch with an IBCLC or a lactation educator or provider so that you can be educated, because nursing can be extremely challenging. It's some people, they have, it just flows and it's easy. But for many of us, including myself and my experience, extremely challenging and difficult. And the reality is that with the proper education and support, it doesn't have to be that hard. And at the end of the day, if your body, it's not happening, there is no shame in that. I know for years we've heard breast is best, but the reality is that fed is best.
Right there. What you said. Because I had a problem getting Izzy to latch. And when we were in the hospital, they brought someone in and worked with us, because, again, old school mom, because I was a child of the 80s. I just thought anybody can have a baby, anybody can breastfeed. That is a lie.
Yeah.
And it took us a while to get the whole, and you think it's such a common thing, such an easy thing. There's a boob, there's a nipple, there's a mouth.
Mm-hmm.
How? It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes the nipple, the boob, the thing doesn't work out. And it can be very stressful for the mom and for the baby. And I'm glad for the lactation consultant we had in the hospital that helped us, because something that I thought was so simple and so easy wasn't.
Right. And right. And in many cases now, it's not necessarily the mom or the anatomy or the milk supply. The baby is having oral issues, tongue ties, lip ties. I even had a set of twins that had a deep cheek tie. I didn't even know I had not heard of that. But there are other things that can become issues, and you need to have that education, know what to look for, and make sure that if you're sensing something and you're going to a provider and they're saying, no, we're not seeing it, everything's fine, and you're going home and you're still having these issues, and in your mind you're like, I know that something is not right, I know there's something is off. Listen to that, lean into your intuition, get a second opinion. I've been with families that their babies were misdiagnosed. They did indeed have a tongue tie. And it can be very painful for a nursing mom, or nursing parent. And so we don't want you to be suffering unnecessarily. Get educated, get the information, know what to look for. And at the end of the day, listen to your intuition and lean into that.
Good advice. It's still surprising to me, even though our little girl is now 10 years old, how many things I took for granted and thought just things would happen, sleeping and potty training. Another thing I wanted to ask about was postpartum depression. Do you see a lot of moms when they're not getting sleep? Because first of all, not getting sleep is like a badge of honor with new moms. Oh, how many hours did you sleep? Who sleeps? The third
Yeah.
one of the things I used to say was the night shift is the roughest. The night shift will kill you. And it's like a badge of honor not to get sleep. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, especially now that we have so much technology and there are wonderful people like Marisa who can help you get sleep. Do you see a lot of postpartum depression coming into the whole sleep deprivation thing? And then do you help moms with that? Or is postpartum depression not as big of a thing when moms are getting sleep?
I think I've seen a lot of different scenarios, and it's some mental, there's so many mental challenges, and your hormones are raging and you're feeling overwhelmed, and you in some cases are feeling extremely anxious, some more than others. I think, yes, rest is definitely going to be a key factor in your postpartum recovery, and the healing of your body. But also, I have seen moms that are getting adequate rest, but they are having a lot of postpartum anxiety. And, I do have some, I do look out for certain things. If I'm seeing things, it's a very vulnerable and touchy subject. I'm not a medical provider, but I see a lot of things that I'm medically aware of and have knowledge about. So I have to lean into that delicately. In some cases, I will even ask in the interview, if I'm seeing something and seeing concerns, with or for mom, I will talk to the partner first, because it's easier to have these conversations, obviously, with a loved one, who you trust and you confide in. So, that's kind of my first step. If things are being ignored, thankfully, I haven't had anything too serious. There have been a couple of cases that got a little intense. And we helped, they were able and open to go and seek help, and get the medical attention that they needed. And there's no shame in that. I myself went through postpartum depression. And unfortunately, I didn't even know that I was in it. I didn't even know what it was. So it's not something that was really discussed. And, you know, many women over the years have suffered in silence. And you no longer, we don't need to do that. We don't recommend that for anybody. There are so many resources now, and you know, we always share that information with our families so that they don't have to feel alone in their journey.
Thank you for that. And thank you, first of all, for being an amazing resource for moms as I want to say, as a sleep champion, not a sleep consultant, a sleep champion for moms and for the baby too, and for the parents.
Yeah.
Then having additional resources, and you recognize that certain things like lactation, postpartum, these things all interplay with what you do. When a mom first reaches out to you, or a dad, because any parent can, what is your process? You know, you have an onboarding process. Sorry, I don't want to say onboarding, but I'm used to be in sales. So
Yeah, no.
you have an onboarding process. You set up expectations, some guidelines. Hey, look at this. And by the end, you know, this is what you should expect. What's your process when someone calls or
Yeah, so
emails?
we have a little discovery talk. We talk about, you know, their parenting goals, their expectations, their concerns, and kind of how I can support them. Like, what does that look like to them? And in many cases, they're not sure. So I just share what I do, how I do it. You know, we talk about sleep, but we also talk about you know, some families, we definitely need that. They need that newborn care and that postpartum support. But they might be traveling extensively. So it just depends on, you know, what the family's lifestyle is, what's happening, what their family dynamic is and looks like. But we figure all that out in our discovery call. And if they want to move forward, I will gather a certain amount of information from them, some specifics, and we will agree upon the specifics, like the start date, the end date, if it's overnight care, if it's 24/7 care, what does that care look like? I will put it all into a newborn care agreement, send it over. They will sign it. They will also receive an invoice for a retainer fee, which is applied towards the end of the contract. And it just kind of goes from there.
That sounds good. I like that. I like that you communicate expectations and they talk about their life, because your lifestyle will affect your baby's sleep. One of the things I liked on your website, or many things I liked on your website, first of all, but one of the things was travel. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Like, if you travel, your child, because they won't be in the same environment over and over again. So if they're going to daycare, if there's people coming in and out of the house, if the mother-in-law comes or the mother comes, because in some cultures, a mother will come for a month or 2 months to help a child. Not in my culture, but that's okay. Or if you have a nanny that's coming, or if you travel a lot, the disruptions, or I shouldn't say disruptions, the way your lifestyle flows will have that impact. And you talked about how to work with your sleep consultant or sleep champion for travel.
Mhm.
Did you know that immediately, because you were nannying before, did you know that immediately that travel and certain lifestyles will lend itself to easier or not so easy with gentle sleep training?
Yes, as a nanny, I worked for a lot of, well, not a lot, I worked for a handful of sports celebrities and executives. And so we were on the road often, and I learned how to get the baby acclimated. Basically, I would keep the baby on its routine. So regardless of what time zone we were, sometimes we're traveling through more than one time zone. What does that look like? It looks like me setting a lot of alarms, being extremely organized, you know, thinking ahead, planning ahead at each stop. What that looks like, what do I need? And now, as a traveling newborn care specialist, and doing these short-term trips with families, it is really great because you can keep your baby sleeping well. You can keep your baby on a routine. Are you going to have some off moments? Of course, because that's life on the road. But can it still be seamless? It can. And I help with that. I make that all happen.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
It's a
Again,
lot
wish
of
I'd known
fun
you.
for me too. It is wild, but it's a lot of fun. I love it.
You get to see so many different people and conversations, and just it's got to be interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned and seen so much, and experienced things that I will never experience in my personal lifetime. Or my personal life, I guess I should say. But no, it really is, it's a unique niche and something that I've become well versed in, and families rely on me, for that. But also, we were asking before about, people, when do people reach out? And, sometimes it is after the baby has been born. They didn't even know that someone like me existed, or that there were others that do what we do. And we have multiple services to help support families, regardless where they're at in their parenting journey.
Oh, very, very good. You talked about multiple resources and your website and your social media channels. Um, you mentioned a free guide. I saw there was a free guide. If
Yeah.
parents just want to get some information, talk to me a little bit about your free guide.
Yeah, so it's basically talks about, everybody wants to know about sleep. And so it is a guide that gives, some major steps to getting your baby sleeping solidly, like better stretches, throughout the night, regardless of what stage they're in. So the baby could be 6 weeks, the baby could be 6 months. If you follow these steps and you're aware, and again, mindfully practicing mindfulness with your baby, you're and letting them lead and show you and tell you, these tips are going to help you have success. And all you got to do is go to the website and sign up for our free emails, including that guide. There's a lot of great information. We also offer a lot of great information on the blogs and resources. So it's not just about signing up for services. We really want to help, give families resources, whether it's, they work with us or with somebody else. The reality is that this information is going to help them in their parenting journey.
It's life changing. I mean, something as I'm going to say simple as sleep, but as simple as sleep can really change the outcome of your life, and you'll be able to listen to your child better. Like I said, when I talked to another set of moms for the teenage and the tween years, one of the things I kept saying was listen, 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 communication method, communication modems or channels. And you're saying the same thing. Listen to your baby. This is a good time to start that. And if you get a foundation, the foundational piece of sleeping, eating, showering.
Yes. Yes.
If you can get that sleep under there, then you can listen to your child better and start from the beginning and not wait till the tween years or the teen years when they have a lot to say.
Yes. and it's not just about listening, it's also about communicating. Top people don't realize how impactful talking to your baby is. Your 2-day old, your 2-week old, your 2-month old, your 2-year old. Talking to your baby, they understand more than you think. This past year has been a really special journey with some of my babies. The verbal communication, where they would be crying. I mean, it's not every day that you are able to talk a screaming 4-week-old off a ledge, but they're soothed by the sound of your voice. They're soothed by the tone. You're reassuring them, letting them know that, last night, for example, I'm working with a little baby since she's come home from the hospital. She's 4 weeks old now, and she's crying, and, I'm warming up and preparing her bottle, and I just go in the room and say, Risa's here. It's okay. I'm getting your bottle ready. And literally, she stops crying. She settles down because she knows that she's being reassured that her needs are going to be met. Her needs are being in process of being met. And it is such a special thing, but babies will hear you and understand your tone and what you're trying to communicate. Sure, maybe they don't understand every single thing, but they're getting it. And if you communicate, your baby it can be a smoother journey, less crying for sure. When you tap into your baby's needs, when you communicate, when you treat them and care for them as a little human being with unique individual needs versus an object. It's so easy to objectify babies. They're so cute, and you think that they, you just got to do all these things. And, if you just listen to your baby and care for your baby mindfully, there's a lot less crying and more peace in the home.
I love that. I love that. And you keep mentioning mindfulness. I mean, just there are different religions. So, whatever religion you are, what do you mean by mindfulness? Because it's just being mindful of, communicating with your baby, listening to your baby, making sure those foundational things like sleeping and eating are correct. So just keeping them top of mind, or what do you mean by mindfulness? Because there are different religions, and so I don't want to get into
that. No, it is just basically like, putting your phone away, not having distractions, focusing. So when I say mindful, it's more like, putting everything, all the distractions away. And because when you are with your baby, especially when you're during the feeding time, maybe you're on your phone and you're distracted, or you're talking to somebody, or you have the TV on. That is such a special bonding moment and time, and making direct eye contact with your baby. They're looking at you. They're seeking your attention. So being mindful of what your baby is showing you and telling you, and focusing, by focusing on them and them only, it's extremely impactful.
Love that. I love that. And again, making sure we get these things done now, because they will carry over to elementary, middle school, and tween and teen. But focusing on them, even during like the feeding time, I like that, because later on there will be dinners with your kid, and you're going to be wanting to be on the phone or in meetings or having the TV on. I like that, focusing, using that time, they're seeking your input, like you said, and making sure we're giving them quality time and good content. I like that a lot. Input. We need to make sure we're doing input.
Yes.
Okay. So another question for you.
Sure.
When the parent comes to you, when it's coming to the end and the baby's sleeping, and you just see this light in their face because things have just changed for the better, honey. How does that make you feel? Or what do you describe? Or the parent, like, just how does that make you feel? I mean, it's got to make you feel good, but just like, describe that feeling, and describe the feeling the parent has.
It's so interesting, because as I was just talking about this yesterday, as many times as I've gone through it, each time it's like I'm doing it for the first time. It just is it's just like, I was like, it's magic. It's truly magic. And when the families, they hug me, or they, write me a note, or, they just say, this is incredible. I never even knew that something like this existed. I didn't even know this was possible. All my friends are like suffering with their babies, and I can't say anything because I have you, and my baby's been sleeping through the night for months now. So it is really special, and it's not impossible. And if you have the support of somebody who has been in it and done it for quite a while, is seasoned, and knows what they're doing, it can be done sooner than later. It's not a long, drawn out thing. If we're implementing all of the things in the proper time frames, It goes very quickly, but again, it depends on your baby. Some babies get there quicker, and some it may take a little bit longer. But if there are health issues, if there are feeding issues, if there are any kind of oral issues, it can delay the sleep period, or delay them from sleeping through the night, but they will get there.
But it's good too, then, if you contact a sleep consultant, or I'm saying sleep champion, because that's just how I feel. You're like getting that sleep out so the mom can be knocked out so she can be a better champion. Yes, champion. When you contact someone who is resourceful and knowledgeable and has so much wisdom and experience, and you can see that, hey, there are other factors here that are making this more challenging for you and the parents, because as parents and newborn parents, we don't know.
Yeah,
it's your first kid, and sometimes your third kid. Your first two kids may not have had issues, or I don't want to say problems, but challenges like this other kid did, and you're able to see that. It's like that also adds to the level of successful they'll have with their child from an early point in the care of the child.
Yes, absolutely.
Kudos for that. What would be some of the best advice? I don't want to say down to a sentence or a word or a phrase, but what is some of the best advice you can give parents, as I'd say the 3 phases: when they first find out that they're pregnant, after the baby comes, and then a month in when they're like, I'm going to lose my freaking mind because I can't sleep. What would you give? What would you give advice to those 3 different phases of parenting? There's so many phases.
Yes, there are. If you're just finding out that you're expecting, and it's extremely exciting, but it also can be overwhelming. Some people are planners; they plan ahead. So I've had families, reach out to me 7 months prior and make sure that I was available for them. I've had families, repeat clients, text me as soon as they peed on the stick and found out that they were expecting. But so you want to start getting your ducks in a row. But there are people who don't know, and they find out at the last minute. And the reality is that we can help you figure out what type of support you need. Maybe it's not in person. Maybe it's remote. We have a variety of remote services that support new and expecting families, parents. And the reality is that whether it's remote or in person, they're thriving, and their babies are thriving, and their babies are sleeping soundly and eventually through the night with our guidance. And for the families that, are coming home and thinking, oh, we got this. We're good. We have, our parents, and we have friends. But the reality is that when the baby comes home, yes, they have that support, but nobody's really signing up to hang out all night with your newborn at the end of the day. So then they're kind of like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted. And so their families reach out to us in all 3 of these phases, and we're able to help them, get on track, get the support, get the rest that they need, and have an extra set of eyes and ears and hands, if that be the case.
I like that. I love, again, your website is very informative, and it's, of course, I love Color Red. There's so much information out there to get a parent started. You have FAQ section, you have the blog, and you have the new guide, and you have the Instagram, you have the Facebook. So if they're curious, they can start there, and of course reach out to you. One thing we didn't talk about, which is kind of a down thing, but you did talk about SIDS. I think that was on one of your blogs.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? Or
yes. So honestly, the first thing that I set up and talk about with any potential families that I work with, is about healthy sleep habits and why that matters, and how we implement that, and get things ready before the baby is born. In my newborn care agreement, I have a list of things. It's a small list, but it's an important list of things, and they're all related to the baby's sleep space. So making sure that, we're having the correct temperature in the room, that it's cool, that it's dark, that baby is dressed appropriately, because they are in, they are in danger of, becoming overheated. SIDS is a risk factor. So it's something that we want to be aware of and we want to prevent at the end of the day. So that is a big part of my job in working with these parents and families and letting them know, how to move forward and educating them on how to keep their baby safe and set up an optimal sleep space.
Makes sense. It's something that kept me up at night for the SIDS, because you heard about it a lot, like it seemed like all the time, just making sure you're mindful of, is there anything else in the crib? And then the bumper things. I remember you could have them on there, you couldn't have them on there. I think we opted for it and then we stopped using it. I remember getting a baby monitor on her, like which baby monitor was good, the mat versus the other thing. But the environment, like you mentioned on your website, and also now too, is crucial.
Yes.
Because no parent should ever have to deal with that.
No. And I mean, in my lifetime, I had one client, and she said that her, a family member in their family, their baby passed from SIDS. I had never heard of anyone directly or indirectly. And it just broke my heart.
My sister died of cancer at 27, which is way, way far away from a newborn. But my dad said that it's a club you never want to be a part of. When your child dies, that's not a club anyone wants to be a part of.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I thank you so much for your time today. Before we sign out, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about for your sleep consultant, Luxe Baby Custom Newborn Care? Is there anything else you want to tell people? And of course, I'll share your website and your Facebook page or Instagram, your email, phone numbers. What else would you like to tell people just to get them to understand that sleep is it's not a badge of honor not to get sleep. It's something you need to have. It's a foundational piece you and your baby need. It'll set you up for success as a parent. What else would you like them to know?
Yes. I mean, as a new parent, something that I experienced when I brought my daughter home all those years ago was I just, as a new parent, yes, I had been around babies all my life. I had been a nanny for many years, but I really didn't get my hands on babies professionally until like the 4th or 5th month, because that's when parents were going back to work, moms and dads, that's when they were going back to work. So that 0 to 3 months was a completely different world. And I thought, I walked into it going, oh, I've got this. I know what I'm doing, but I hit so many unexpected walls. And as a new parent, I don't care if you've watched one child or 20 children, babies, at the end of the day, every baby is different. That 0 to 3 months really is a unique time with, a whole set of rules and guidelines, and you're exhausted and there's so much going on and you're trying to figure out your baby, and there's a lot of crying because you don't know what your baby needs. So we offer a service that I'm obsessed with. It's inspired from my own personal journey. It's called Your Baby Hotline, and it is a 24/7 messaging service for new parents. So if it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. and you're hitting the wall with your baby, you literally can go to the website, sign up, pay, and start immediately. So, if there's any of your, we're here to answer all those new parent queries at the end of the day and help you get through those challenging moments.
Awesome. And as an used to be new parent, we need those, because I do remember, might have been me, might have someone that looked like me, I don't know. We had just come home from house, and I put her to sleep, right? Like she was laying next to me, put her to sleep, and like she wasn't breathing. And I told my husband, I said, you can get in the car now or later, but I'm leaving without you. She's going back to the hospital. We weren't even home 12 hours. I didn't know about intermittent breathing.
Oh, yeah.
So I took her back.
Well, yeah, I would
Like,
too. Yeah.
And then said, oh, new mom, huh? First time. I said, yes. You know.
Well, I was calling the nurse hotline, like that was not a baby hotline, okay? And they were like, they were very nice in the beginning, but then I kept calling and they're like, oh, honey, this isn't really what we do, or this isn't how it works. And so I just was like, gosh, I need to call somebody. I need somebody to let me know that what I'm doing is okay, that I'm not screwing up or harming my baby. I need to know how to get my baby to stop screaming for an hour every night at 6 p.m. Like, that was a whole thing. And I did not, I just was like, whoa, I just didn't know what to do. I was beside myself.
You weren't low. We used to call it the witching hour.
Yeah, there's still a witching hour, for sure. But now I not only know how to navigate it, but I help many families navigate it as well.
That should be a tagline right there. You no longer have to feel the wrath of the witching hour, something like that. You can call just that's a global thing, the witching hour. From the
yes. And it's still alive and well.
Like, what is wrong with you? I fed you. You should be tired. You don't have a wet butt. What's going on? That's why you need Marisa.
Yes.
She's your sleep champion.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you and learning about what you do and how you do it, and just.
Well, Angela, thank you so much for having me. It's really important for me to let new and expecting parents know that they have resources and there are other ways of doing things that are gentle and calming and not so stressful. So we're here to support new families and new parents on their journey. So thank you so much for helping me get the word out. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. And I'll have Marisa's information tagged in this video, as well as on our Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, because we're back from the summer now, and we'll get that going out to y'all. And as well, put out the magazine cover with her face on and her information, because it's an awesome business, a needed business, and a valuable business to set you up for success, not just as a newborn parent, but going forward. Those foundational pieces of sleep, or the foundational piece of sleep. It's not just peace, it's peace of mind. Thanks again, Marisa, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.